Let me tell you, nobody in town thought I'd ever come back, not after 30 years. They'd say, Roland's ranch is nothing but bones and weeds. Nobody's lived out there since the storm ate it whole. And honestly, I almost believe them. But sometimes, you get a tug deep inside that won't let you sleep, a voice that keeps whispering you left something behind, something you're never going to find anywhere else. So there I was, gripping the wheel of my old Chevy, driving a road cracked by decades, grass busting through gravel, every bump rattling loose another old memory. That stretch used to be the lifeline of my childhood. My dad would holler for me and my sister to bring in the cows at sundown, and Mom'd be waving from the porch, hands dusted in flour. But after the hurricane, God, that wind, the whole house groaning like a beast, my dad said we had to go. We packed what we could, left the rest. I was 15 and didn't understand a damn thing except that home was something you could lose in a night. We moved to the city. Folks said it was for the best, but it never felt like living, just waiting. Decades passed. My parents faded, one after the other. I buried them with all the right words, but my heart never quite left that land. Sooner or later, I knew I'd come back. Call it stubbornness. Call it hope. Or maybe I was just the only fool who believed something good could still be found out there. So I returned, hands sweating on the steering wheel as the ranch came into view, more ruin than memory. The roof caved in, windows black holes, barn tilting like a drunk who couldn't quite stand. The fields where wheat once shimmered were nothing but wild grass, tangled and mean. You ever stand somewhere that should feel like home, but all you sense is ghosts? I did. The silence was thick, pressing, but underneath, I felt the earth waiting, almost daring me to try. I walked through the sagging porch, could almost hear Mom's laugh or Dad's bark, but only the wind answered. Still, I pressed on, drawn to the barn by a memory or maybe just muscle. That's when everything changed. Pushed the barn door open, nearly fell off its hinges, and I swear, I caught a scent that didn't belong to dust or mold. Life. I stopped dead, listening, and heard it, the soft cluck of a hen, the shuffle of hooves. My brain must have thought I was seeing things. But nope. A chicken scurried past, feathers ruffled, then another. In a pen of fallen boards, two pigs rooted in the dirt, snorting like they owned the place. Then, out in the far corral, a horse lifted its head, gaunt, but proud, eyes fixed right on me. I mean, what do you even say in a moment like that? 30 years gone, not a soul left, but these animals survived, just scraping by, making their kingdom in the wreckage. Made me wonder if maybe the land had never really let go. I just stood there, taking it in, feeling this mix of wonder and sadness, and I knew right. Then, walking away again wasn't an option. At dawn, I came back, worried it had all been some fever dream. But the chickens fluttered down, the pigs snorted hello, the horse, who I'd later name Grace, watched me like she'd been expecting someone, anyone, to show up. Then came a twist I never saw coming. 3 dogs slinked from the shadows, ribs showing but eyes burning with this wild defiance. Behind them, cats slipped in, silent and sharp. All of them survivors, living not for me or anyone else, just clinging to each other in this battered place. That was the moment I got. This wasn't just my homecoming. It was theirs too. I spent the next hours cleaning what I could, patching the water trough, making makeshift pens. My hands blistered, but for the first time in forever, I felt useful. Sweat on my brow, sun rising, the barn humming with life while the house sat in silence, a relic of what was lost. In town, people laughed, called me a fool to my face. Kids dared each other to run up and bang on the fence, then took off shrieking when I waved. It stung, sure it did, but every time the animals gathered around at dusk, that pain faded. Trouble came quick. A pig got sick, shivering, refusing food. I tried every remedy I remembered from boyhood, stayed up late with cool rags and soft words, like it mattered more than anything. Maybe it did. The pig pulled through. Then, one night, a fox got in, scattered feathers and panic. I chased it off, heart pounding, and buried my lost hens with hands that shook. Each loss hit harder than I wanted to admit. Money dried up fast. I took odd jobs in town, shoveling, hauling, fixing fences for folks who'd rather sneer than pay, but cash is cash. Nights I sat in the kitchen of the old house, the air thick with memories, Mom humming, Dad's strong hand on my shoulder. Then one day, prying up a warped board for repairs, I found a hidden box. Inside, family photos and my father's old journal, pages full of worry, debts, hope that the land could live again if someone believed enough. The earth gives only to those who give everything back, he wrote. That line stuck. I read it every night. Storms still came. One tore the barn roof loose, left me hammering boards in the rain, arms numb, breath ragged. But this time, I didn't run. I fought, every muscle burning. And at dawn, saw Grace alive, piglets squealing, chickens battered but okay. That storm didn't beat me. It made me realize, leaving wasn't escape, it was betrayal. I'd found purpose. And that made me stronger than ridicule or pain. Word spread. First disbelief, then quiet respect. People brought old animals they couldn't care for. A dog left behind, a goat found half-starved, even an old cow. I took them all in. The farm grew, patched with mismatched wood, but alive. Neighbors who'd once mocked me brought lumber, preserves, even kids to feed the chickens. It wasn't about winning them over, but the respect healed something in me all the same. Years passed. The house and barn stood taller. The land grew green, and the animals multiplied, a kingdom, not of memory, but of stubborn, living hope. Then one day, the sheriff rode out, bringing someone from the AG board. They inspected, asked questions, nodded, and before they left, said the farm's name would be restored in the county. That mattered, I won't lie, but it wasn't what made the difference. It was coming home at dusk, seeing Grace in the pasture, the dogs curled by the porch, the cats flickering in the golden light, and knowing, yeah, I'd chosen this. I'd fought for it, lost, and rebuilt, and found a life not even a hurricane could erase. You know what I mean? Sometimes, you gotta face the ruins to remember what hope really looks like. Now, before you go, tell me down in the comments, what do you think is worth fighting for? Have you ever come back to something everyone else gave up on? Let's hear your story. And hey, don't forget to subscribe. There's a lot more where this came from. Let me back up a sec, because if you'd told me the hardest part was over, after that first year, I'd have laughed in your face. Sure, the land was healing, the animals were thriving, but the fight didn't just end. It changed. Maybe you know that feeling, the world keeps throwing curveballs just to see if you'll flinch. First real winter back, I learned what cold really means. The old house rattled and groaned, wind howling through every crack, frost creeping in, under the door and over the windows until the glass looked like it was made of lace. I burned through every stick of firewood I'd laid up, bundled under quilts I hadn't seen since my mother passed, listening to the animals outside, praying I hadn't brought them all back just to lose them in a cold snap. Nights were long, bitter, and when the pipes froze, I had to haul water by hand through snow. Up to my knees, boots leaking, face numb. There were moments I almost gave up, almost. But the sun always rose, and there was always work waiting. You can't sit and mope when lives depend on you. That's the thing about this kind of life. It humbles you, fast. Spring thaw brought hope, but also mud, everywhere, thick as wet cement. Every step a battle. The barn roof started to sag again after a wild April storm, so I climbed up with a hammer and nearly fell through, heart pounding, hands shaking as I clung to the rafters, but I got it patched. Didn't look pretty, but it held. The hens started laying even more. One morning, I found a whole clutch tucked in a corner, warm and perfect, and I just stood there, grinning like a fool. Town folks kept their distance mostly, except for old Mrs. Hadley who dropped off bread and a thermos of coffee after church some Sundays. She'd tell me, you know, my brother says you're crazy, but I think you're brave. Or stubborn. Maybe both. Guess she was right. And the kids, well, they stopped daring each other to run up and ring the bell and started bringing scraps for the pigs. One even showed up with a duck he'd rescued from the river, said, she looks like she belongs here. The place started to feel a little less haunted and a little more like home. But don't think for a second it was all happy endings. Predators got bold that second year. A coyote made off with half my flock before I finally set up proper fencing and started sleeping lighter, the dogs barking every time something moved outside. There were losses. That hurts, more than I'd like to admit. Sometimes I'd stand in the barn after midnight, just listening to the rain tap the roof, and wonder if I was really making a difference or just buying time. Money, as always, was tight. My old pickup broke down twice in a single month, and the nearest mechanic grumbled about city fools playing farmer. I took odd jobs again, fixing fences, shoveling snow, cleaning out haylofts for folks who acted like they'd never called me crazy in the first place. It was hard swallowing my pride, but you do what you have to. Some days I came home, so tired my bones felt hollow, but every time I stepped into that barn and the animals perked up at the sound of my boots, I knew why I was here. And then, twist of fate I never saw coming. A letter showed up one gray afternoon, edges yellowed, name scrawled in a hand I'd barely recognized. Turned out, an old neighbor who'd moved west had heard about what I was doing. Said he had a stack of unused lumber and a young bull he couldn't keep. Told me if I could haul it, it was mine. So I hitched up the trailer, drove the roughest back roads, and came home with more than I left with. That bull strutted off the ramp like he owned the place, and I laughed out loud, just for the joy of it. Sometimes you put good out there, and it circles back, you know? Another summer came, and with it, new faces. A family from town brought their daughter, sweet kid, wheelchair-bound, curious as a fox. She spent hours with Grace, brushing her coat, telling stories. And the old mare seemed to grow younger with every gentle touch. Watching them, I felt this ache, something that wasn't quite sadness or hope, just the sense that maybe the farm was meant for more than just me or even the animals. Maybe it was a place for anyone who needed it. Of course, there were setbacks, always. A windstorm tore up the orchard saplings I'd planted, nearly flattened the garden fence. I cursed, rebuilt, replanted. That's the rhythm here. Something breaks, you fix it. Something dies, you mourn and you move on. The world doesn't pause for your grief. By year 3, I realized the farm was changing me as much as I was changing it. The house, once silent, echoed with laughter again. Sometimes neighbors lingered on the porch, stories and coffee passed around like currency. The animals multiplied, the pasture thickened, and I'd walk the fence line at sunset, boots muddy, heart full. I wasn't chasing ghosts anymore. I was building something new, not just from wood and sweat, but from all the small, stubborn kindnesses that had found their way to me. I wish I could say it all tied up neat, but life doesn't work like that. Every day brings new work, new worries, new chances to fail, or to start over. The town still talks, but now, when they say my name, there's a little respect in it. Maybe a little envy, too. And me? I sit on that porch most nights, listening to the fields, the animals, the wind, and I think, yeah, I made it back. Not just to the ranch, but to myself. So what about you? Ever stuck with something so long, folks? Called you crazy, and then one day it just clicked? Drop your stories in the comments. Let's see who else out there knows what it's like to fight for your own small corner of the world. And hey, don't forget to hit subscribe. You won't want to miss what happens next.